When you live completely alone in the wild, you notice every sound. And when the forest goes quiet, you know something is watching. Story 1. The wind howled, a mournful lament that clawed at the canvas of our tent. It had been howling for days, a relentless symphony of nature's fury that mirrored the growing dread in my gut. Liam and I, seasoned survivalists, had sought refuge in this remote corner of the boreal forest, craving the solitude, the raw, untamed beauty of it all. We'd been here for 2 weeks, our carefully constructed cabin a bastion against the elements, our supplies meticulously stocked. But lately, the wilderness felt less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. It started subtly. Strange rustling in the undergrowth, just beyond the firelight's reach. We dismissed it as deer, a curious fox, the usual nocturnal visitors. Then came the sounds. A snapping twig too close to our perimeter, a guttural sigh that wasn't the wind. Liam, usually unflappable, grew jumpy. He started sleeping with his hunting knife under his pillow. I found myself constantly scanning the dense wall of pines, my eyes playing tricks on me with shadows that shifted and writhed. Last night, it escalated. I woke to a heavy thud against the cabin wall, a solid impact that vibrated through the floorboards. Liam was instantly awake, his hand gripping his rifle. We listened, hearts hammering against our ribs. Silence. Then, a slow, deliberate scrape against the wood, like massive claws dragging across the rough-hewn logs. It went on for a solid minute before receding back into the oppressive darkness. We spent the rest of the night huddled together, the flickering lamplight casting dancing, monstrous shadows. Sleep was a distant memory. Today we ventured out, a tense 2-man patrol. The snow was pristine, undisturbed. No tracks. Nothing. Yet the feeling of being watched was palpable, a physical weight pressing down on my shoulders. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of a branch, sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. Liam kept his rifle at the ready, his jaw set. As we circled back towards the cabin, a flash of movement caught my eye. Deep within the dense trees, a figure. Tall, unnaturally so, clad in what looked like matted fur or dark rags. It was indistinct, a silhouette against the bleak landscape. And then it was gone, swallowed by the shadows as if it had never been there. "Did you see that?" I whispered, my voice hoarse. Liam nodded, his eyes wide. "Saw it. But what was it?" The hike back was a frantic, silent march. The wind seemed to mock us now, whispering secrets we couldn't decipher. Back in the relative safety of the cabin, we reinforced the door, piled furniture against it. We ate our rations in near silence, the only sounds the rasp of our breathing and the relentless wind. The isolation we craved had become a deafening roar, amplifying the terror. We were deep in the wilderness, miles from any help, and something ancient and hungry was playing with us in the dark. The night was coming, and I had a horrifying premonition that it wouldn't be the wind we'd be hearing. Story 2. The silence out here isn't just an absence of sound. It's a living thing, heavy and cold. My cabin is a speck of defiance against a million acres of ancient forest, months removed from the nearest whisper of civilization. I built it myself, every log notched, every nail hammered, for a life lived on my own terms. My terms, I'm learning, are subject to change. It started subtle. A snare I'd set for rabbit, found sprung and empty, but not ripped apart by a struggling animal. Cleanly sprung. Then, the next week, the cached venison I'd buried carefully by the creek was disturbed, not by a bear, who would have torn the whole spot to hell, but by something that had meticulously uncovered just one hunk, leaving neat, unnatural tracks, too large for a wolf, too splayed for a human, etched into the mud. Every rustle became a warning, every shadow, a watching eye. I've always been alone, but now I feel watched. The hair on my neck prickles when I chop wood, the axe strokes feeling clumsy and loud beneath the oppressive weight of unseen scrutiny. I started scanning the tree lines, not for game, but for something else. A flicker. A shape. All I ever saw was the endless, indifferent green. Last night, it escalated. I woke to a sound, soft and deliberate. A single rhythmic thump against the back wall of my cabin, directly behind my head. Not an animal rubbing, not a branch. It sounded intentional, like a dull fist. I froze, rifle in hand, heart hammering. The thumping stopped. I waited, breathing shallow, until the first hint of dawn. I didn't sleep again. This morning, there it was, scratched deep into the old pine log, exactly where the thumping had been. A crude symbol. 3 parallel lines, bisected by a jagged vertical one. Not a shape I'd ever seen in any trail markers, nor any animal sign. It was too precise, too deliberate. My hands shake as I write this. I'm a survivalist. I know the woods. I know its dangers. But this is different. It's not an animal, not a trespasser. It's playing a game. And I'm the quarry. The forest outside isn't silent anymore. It's a coiled spring, waiting. And I'm alone. So terribly, utterly alone. I can hear the whisper of the wind through the pines now, and in it, I swear I hear my name. Story 3. 7 months. That's how long we've been here, nestled in the absolute dead heart of the Tundra National Forest. The nearest sign of human life is a derelict fire watchtower 30 miles south, and the nearest actual town requires an 80-mile slog over logging roads that haven't been maintained since the last century. Isolation is our armor, or so we thought. Now, isolation is just the cage. It started subtly, the way rot always does. We're survivalists, pragmatic to a fault. We dismiss the phantom sense, the rustle that sounds too heavy for a rabbit, the feeling that the thick glass of the cabin window is insulating us from something that is actively studying the shape of our lives. But the tracks weren't deer. They appeared after the first heavy snowmelt, long, narrow depressions circling the perimeter of the cabin. They weren't paw prints. They were too uniform, too deliberate, placing weight exactly where a foot would fall, just elongated and skewed, like a human footprint viewed through water. We convinced ourselves it was a lone wolf, maybe a coyote with an odd gait. Then came the silence. The forest here is never truly silent. There are always jays, the wind cutting through the pines, the cracking of ice on the creek. For the past week, the air outside has been heavy, soundless, as if every living creature within a 100-yard radius is holding its breath in concert. Not a healthy quiet, but a waiting one. 3 days ago, I found where it had been watching. I was checking the trap lines near the south boundary, wading through the dense, wet brush. About 50 yards from the cabin, carved into the trunk of a massive ancient cedar, was a score mark. It wasn't a claw mark. It was a precise, deep gouge, about the length of my forearm. It was too straight, too deliberately placed at eye level, facing directly toward our main window. Below it, worn into the mud, was a depression. Not standing, kneeling. There was no confusion left. This wasn't an animal reacting to territory. It was something thinking, observing routines, and marking the duration. Last night, the atmosphere solidified into terror. Elias and I were sitting near the stove, the only light coming from the hissing kerosene lantern. The wind had died completely. Then came the sound from the roof. It wasn't a branch falling or the snow shifting. It was a scrape, deliberate and slow, like coarse fabric dragging across the shingles, followed by a light thump, and then total silence again. Whatever it was directly overhead, and it had weight. Elias grabbed the rifle and we froze, listening to the drip of condensation inside the stovepipe. After maybe 10 minutes of absolute stillness, the sound returned. This time, it was coming from the narrow gap between the roof edge and the attic window we'd sealed for the winter. A low, sucking breath, followed by a rasping hiss. It wasn't angry. It sounded curious. It felt less like being hunted and more like being studied. We are the specimen, trapped in our glass habitat, and the creature outside is finally close enough to catalog our fear. It knows we are awake now. It knows we can't call for help. And the worst part, I think it learned how to whisper my name. Not with human words, but with a clicking sound I swear only I could hear, right against the frozen glass, confirming that it has finished its study, and the lesson is about to begin.